Nice. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming. So let's start with some brief introductions. Can you give me your name, your project, and what real problem you're solving in DeFi?
Yeah, sure. Hey everyone, I'm CJ from the Monad Foundation. I lead the DeFi ecosystem. And at Monad, we are solving the scalability issue that's holding back DeFi without compromising on decentralization.
So my name is Charlie, co-founder of Bitlayer. We were one of the largest Bitcoin L2 focused on Bitcoin DeFi, not just Ethereum. We built the first big BVM bridge, launched 2 months ago, trying to build this new generation Bitcoin trust minimized bridge, unlock the biggest asset in the Web3 space called Bitcoin for the DeFi space.
Hi everyone, so I'm Maria. I'm a co-founder at Data Network. It's a data layer. We provide on-chain insights to companies. And now more recently, we're launching an agent that allows anyone to tap into on-chain data and insights in real time through natural language in English.
I'm Gleb. I'm co-founder at Blum. So at Blum, we are building trading products within Telegram, for example, PerpDex.
Thank you. Super interesting. Okay, so let's get into the first question. In 2021, DeFi was about yield farming and experimentation. In 2025, people are calling it a DeFi renaissance. What's the single biggest change you've seen in this evolution?
Yeah, so I still remember back in 2021, there were a lot of food Ponzi farms in the BSC ecosystem. We had APYs in the septillions and even across the entire screen. So that was clearly unsustainable, driven by mainly token emissions. And fast forward to today, in 2025, I think the single most important thing we have seen is the fundamentals have gotten a lot better. We have a lot more real products driven by real economic activity. It's like, for example, on the order book base, like fully on-chain order book PerpDexes that can generate a lot of revenue, that's creating sustainable and structured products on top of them. And that's really how you can attract the institutional players, the everyday players to come in and trade and not get burnt and really create a much more vibrant DeFi ecosystem where they can do like all kinds of things from lending and borrowing and even like using credit cards that are linked to your crypto bank account so you can earn on-chain and then you can spend off-chain. And that's something that I've been doing personally, and that's really convenient. So I'm really looking forward to seeing more of these like DeFi on-chain benefiting users in the real world as well.
So CJ mentioned about a lot of primitives. I want to repeat. From the DeFi summer in Ethereum 2020 till now, the industry grew much further, right? TVO, it's 10x bigger now. We have the ETF firms coming along, right, holding a lot of the assets from Bitcoin to Ethereum. We're looking at all kinds of different ways to generate yield, no matter it's on-chain lending yield, DEX, liquidity provision, or off-chain yield, right, from stable coins to delta neutral, all kinds of things. A lot of people kind of talking about RWA, it's kind of CDFI model as well. So it's like a hybrid, not just purely fully degen Web3 like 2020. It's actually institutional grade. So all these things that was kind of like big vision, long term in 2020. Now it's like reality. A lot of companies are doing that already, right? So the primitive, the assets, the tooling, it's already much more mature. I would say it's like 50x mature than 2020. And what do we want to do, right? Once Bitlayer is like, there's a one missing gap. We forget about one biggest asset class in the industry. That's called Bitcoin. It's going to 3 trillion market cap. Less than 1% of the Bitcoin assets being unlocked enter DeFi space. And I think that's kind of the missing gap we try to fulfill as a mission.
Yeah, I mean, these are all great points. I think back in 2021, when you were doing DeFi, it was very limited to the crypto assets that were currently available, and the main game was just maximizing the yield. And today, so as our fellow colleagues mentioned, there's a lot more asset classes coming into play. We see the rise of stablecoins like Athena. I think there's going to be a lot of Athenas coming in the coming months. We also see like all the tokenized stocks on centralized exchanges and various platforms are being, so it's very exciting. It widens the asset class, and it makes like proof that you can build institutional grade financial products on top of crypto assets, which is exciting. And just another change I think that we will see is more linked to the on-chain data analytics side of things. So the more you have possibilities, the more you need research and analytics to do your on-chain trading research.
I would probably speak from decentralized exchanges perspective. So like in 2021, we saw those like decentralized exchanges like Uniswap, right, SushiSwap. So people were farming, but at that time, there were not real like perp dexes, right? Right now we see that there are a lot of like perp dexes, new narrative and hype around that, and so I would say that more sophisticated like trading products right now are available for users, in DeFi space. And like, I wouldn't like at that time. I was like in 2021, I was working at Binance, right? And at that time, we would never imagine that there would be like such strong competition with, with decentralized, exchanges, right? And right now it's like reality, and we see that more and more, users, they go into DeFi space, right? They're exploring different protocols. So we definitely see much more adoption these days. And I think this mass adoption is also driven by regulation, because in a lot of countries, you cannot like use like centralized exchanges like anymore, right? Or some specific products on centralized exchanges. And the second thing, of course, it's more about user interface, because I remember like first like decentralized exchanges in 2017, and it was super complicated to use them. And right now, decentralized exchanges and centralized exchanges, I would say that user experience almost more or less the same. And I think that's the key for like mass adoption that we see these days.
Nice, great answers. So let's move on to scalability, the big one. So what is needed for DeFi to scale and become mass adopted? And what are your takes on the current market conditions? And where do you see the opportunities for scaling?
So in my opinion, I think first of all, we have to make sure on-chain DeFi has a really good and seamless experience. And that can be in the form of having really fast performance, like low block time, so you get near instant settlement. It should feel like you're trading on a centralized exchange. That shouldn't feel like it's laggy or things like that. So that's one of the core tenets of Monad. We are really performant, and the experience feels like just like trading on a centralized exchange with less than half a second of block time. And on the other aspect, I would say abstractions is very important. We have now a lot of specialized front ends building on Monad to make the experience really seamless for the retail users. You don't really need to go to specific protocols just to earn yield. You can use a lot of different yield aggregation protocols. You can use a lot of intent-based protocols that can help you find the best source of yield or the best source of liquidity for your trades. And then we also have AI agents that are making things easier for users. You have anything from trading perps to depositing into yield vaults. It can all be done through AI agents right now. So I think these are one of the main things that are important for bringing DeFi to the masses. And on a distribution level, I think crypto is really, really small. Like right now on Ethereum, I think the daily active user is less than 1 million. And that's like tiny for one of the biggest or the biggest EVM. And I think we have to get the Web2 players, the banks, the neobanks, the government bodies to really start figuring out how they can create like a regulatory framework to make things more compliant for all of these banks to feel safe enough to actually onboard users into crypto. Like my dream would be if my bank gives me a smart contract address, and then I can start sharing and trading or like transferring tokens to funds, to friends all over the world. So that really would be pretty epic. And I think we are getting there. And I think that will be one of the biggest unlock for bringing the masses on-chain.
So CJ mentioned a lot of good points, right? We have a lot of infrastructure scaling already there. If you ask me the question 2018, I will answer about interoperability, right? Scalability to scale Ethereum because it's too slow. Bitcoin has no programmability, right, on that. Now it's 2025. You mentioned about AI agent, we have mentioned about intent, we mentioned about chain extraction. These are all solved, right? We got a lot of very well-built, battle-tested protocols solving those problems. And I would say it's like at least 50% solved. And I think, and then the second part, it's like less than 1 million, more or less 1 million daily active DeFi user, compared to like 6 billion population of digital user every day. It's less like a tiny drop of the ocean, right? So what stops us there? User adoption it's not just, okay, let's push to everybody who never touched about MetaMask and let them all of a sudden learn what is this DeFi yield on perp DEX. It's going to be too far away, right? I think for us, we focus on one thing in DeFi, which is the most important thing, that's liquidity. Like, you can access a lot of consumer apps, right? Everybody chipping 5 cents, $2. But I think fundamentally in DeFi, especially the blue chip ones, the key metric is still how big is the depth of the stablecoin assets, the liquidity assets. No matter it's Ethereum, Solana, or upcoming Monad, or most important assets, Bitcoin, right? Like, if you have very strong, stable, robust liquidity in the liquidity pools, you have very sound, robust security management, and you have a solid user base, can do looping, all kinds of interesting yield strategies, and you can have a very sound, robust kind of foundation to grow and to scale. And I always say to a lot of the DeFi protocols, if you don't have seeding liquidity, if you have access to no liquidity, no matter what kind of interesting, intricate mechanism you build, you design, I'm sorry, you can't really grow. Because you can't work around with that. You cannot reinvent the wheel or broke the physics. So liquidity is very important. We need to scale the assets, bring more liquidity on chain, bring more transaction on chain to scale DeFi.
Yeah, I think that when you look at more traditional, so like stocks, commodities, futures, we have a lot of apps like eToro, like Robinhood, and so on, where you can trade seamlessly without knowing necessarily like what's going on in the background. And when you're a user in DeFi, you still have the friction. You have to set up your wallet. You have to choose which chain you want to trade on, and you have like many protocols doing the same thing. And I think this is a major blocker in bringing the mass adoption, because many people, they have tokens, they want to do more, but there's a lot of barriers to do that. And so what could be like the answer is definitely, so what you guys also mentioned partially, it's this abstraction layer that removes this friction and allows people to seamlessly do the DeFi trades.
Yeah, I would probably add that definitely stronger wallet infrastructure. This is what we need like also these days. Of course, there are some like great solutions such as like Turnkey or Privy, right? They are really helping us to to build more products on in DeFi space. But of course, still like even right now, if you're using like Aster or Hyperliquid, right? It's still it's still not super user friendly, right? So I feel there is still upside in terms of how DeFi products can be like more user friendly, right? And I think that this will definitely like bring like more users to this space. Yeah.
Okay, nice. I know that at Rails, our perspective is that if you can compliantly bring bank customers on chain, this is one of the simplest ways we'll add those customers that will scale DeFi. On that, moving to institutions, these institutional players are circling. Can DeFi and TradFi merge, and what is required for it to happen?
I think we are past the point of whether can DeFi and TradFi merge. I think they have, to some extent, already started merging. Right? We have the launch of DATs, like we have dozens of digital asset treasury firms now. We have dozens of institutions deploying assets on-chain. Maybe that's through centralized rails at the moment, like through custodied approaches, but I'm pretty sure soon they'll be going through non-custodial methods as soon as the regulatory clarity is there. So right now, I think even on Monad, we have a huge RWA ecosystem. We have apps that are tokenizing private equities, tokenizing Web2 businesses, tokenizing real estate, equities, etc. And we have DeFi-related apps focused on serving institutions only. So I think we are definitely at the stage where DeFi and CeFi or TradFi is already merging. And this year, when we started the year, we had about like 7 billion in TVL for RWA assets, and less than, we are in Q4 now, and I think we are at 16 billion already in TVL, so more than double the RWA TVL in less than a year. So I only see this exponentially increasing from here on out, and yeah, I think they are going to be merging, and as like more and more of these institutional players come in, like we recently this week we saw Swift, one of the largest cross-border payment company. They are announcing their own blockchain. So I think there's just going to be so much money liquidity flowing in from the TradFi into DeFi, and it's going to be very exciting to watch. And they all need institutional grade infrastructure. So Monad on day one will be partnered with all of the institutional grade infrastructure providers. So whether it's oracles, indexes, RPC nodes, custody services, it's all going to be there for institutions. And yeah, hopefully we get TradFi coming onto Monad specifically.
And do you think what do you think of the Swift launch? Do you think they're capable of doing that?
So it's a bit too early to say, but in general, I'm a little bit bearish on institutional chains because they don't have the same culture, the soul of crypto. So far, I have been proven right with all the past institutional chains, and let's see how Swift does their launch.
Yeah, no one's asking for more permission chains, right?
Yeah, no one's asking for it.
So, same as Monad, Bitlayer also focused a lot with institution. From day one, we launched our mainnet last April. We start integrating with institutional qualified custodians such as Coinbase Prime. We had an announcement with them yesterday, working with a few other US-based qualified custodians. And I think that's very important to have institutional grade security level standard to make sure the principle of the user assets is protected. You know, who's holding the keys, how does this being protected is very important. Fundamental question to ask, to answer, right? As like, to make sure the user funds are secure. Security is the biggest growing pain, probably the largest growing pain in the entire Web3 space. We see all these hacks happening, right? No matter it's multi-sig hack, wallet hack, all that. It's like hundreds of that, right? So the problem we're trying to solve on our new product, BitVM Bridge, is exactly about that. We shouldn't rely on multi-sig approach to bring hundreds of billions of dollars of Bitcoin assets from Bitcoin layer 1 to all these lending protocols and so on. Right? Institutions wouldn't feel comfortable when they see the Bybit hacks, the UX link hacks, and all the other hacks happening. Right? It's just like a few of the private key holders, their engineers, their wallet, the private key get drained out because somehow the hackers using social engineering or other tactics to compromise their laptop. When we talk about institution adoption, when they see all these news, they are not going to come, right? We are backed by Franklin Templeton. They lead our Series A round. But for institutions like them to really use their whatever it's money market fund or their ETF treasury to do active on-chain DeFi yield, they need to keep asking the underlying questions. What is the underlying risks? Who's holding the private keys? What's the standard protocol? When shit's on the fan, North Korean hackers come in, how you protect that, right? And some of them will be slow mover. So like for an ecosystem like us, we're gonna grow from the retail, grow from native Web3 users. Some of them are risk takers. Some of them had enjoyed the crazy rally of DeFi summer 2020 because of APY. They're taking risks. There's no such a thing called a free yield. Every liquidity has price, every yield has risks. So when we talk about TradFi coming to DeFi, it's a slow process, need to take leap of faith and get into some of the institutions who are risk taker compared to the risk averse guys. Let them get more and more comfortable in a step-by-step approach. I wouldn't think pension funds like Fidelity will deploy their trillions of asset management out of sudden on-chain. That's going to take another 5 to even 10 years to really move step by step. And honestly, I think the entire global modern finance shouldn't be purely 100% on-chain and then just disrupt the entire TradFi space. It's going to be hybrid. There's going to be things off-chain, yield off-chain from the TradFi space, like what CG just mentioned. There's going to be the degenerate, completely on-chain, non-KYC, pure DeFi kind of a high-yield stuff. And there's going to be things in middle, right? So for infrastructure provider like us, we just need to make sure we're offering the right solution to the different clientele, no matter it's retail, who risk taker, who want to seeking high yield, or more like slow mover institution, who really wants to get comfortable first about what's going on, what is the underlying risk I'm signing up for, and they might deploy 1% eventually 10% of the entire asset management into DeFi, so seek DeFi yield. So I think we are very early, especially in the Bitcoin space. ETF was just last year, although it's like 800 billion now, but most of them are not actually seeking active DeFi on-chain yield. SEC has not been approved the ETF staking, right, on the Bitcoin yet. Hopefully it will be next year. And then we were talking about a couple of trillions of potential TradFi assets seeking on-chain DeFi yield in the next 5 years.
Yeah, these are some really good points. So I would add my opinion. So the bridge between DeFi and TradFi will probably look a lot like CDeFi, meaning we have a centralized UX with a decentralized backend. And the winning plays will be really the ones that can hide like the complexity of DeFi today with a seamless UX. And at the same time, like we see some apps coming out trying to do this, like the base app, for example, users are interacting with it like any other fintech product. So transactions are happening on-chain, but the user experience is very similar to a more like Web2 fintech product. And I think this could be also one solution moving forward. No. Like if you want to say something.
So in terms of institutionals, I feel like first we need, DeFi space to be fully adopted by, by retail, because like of course, as like Charlie mentioned, for institutionals they need security, and that's probably the most important thing that that is needed for them, because like for retail, for degens, right, they're okay to ape into like new protocols to to find out about them more, right, and like try different things. But yeah, institutions definitely need high security level, and unfortunately we are not there yet. And I think another part probably that we need to mention more, it's more like on regulation side, right? DeFi space right now, it's not really regulated, and I feel like we have this like probably 2-3 years, without regulation. But we should understand that sooner or later, global regulators will start to, to implement different, different laws on DeFi space as well. And of course, we'll see like, mandatory KYC, right? For example, like centralized exchanges, they didn't have like mandatory KYC like till probably like 2021, right? The same with DeFi space, but it wouldn't last for long, right? Because regulators, they will also need to see, all the flows that are coming into DeFi and coming out, all those protocols. And if you speak about institutionals, even like with accounts, on centralized exchanges right now, you have all that, you have this access to corporate accounts, right? And you don't have such kind of feature as corporate accounts on decentralized exchanges, right? And like this is what like a very basic thing that like institutionals will need. So I feel like there are a lot of things that we still need to do, in DeFi in order to make it, I would say, more easy to use for institutionals.
Okay, thank you. So let's go to the last question, give it about a minute maybe. So users in 2021 put up with MetaMask and high gas fees. In 2025, expectations are different. How important is UX abstraction to scaling DeFi?
In my opinion, that's like the single most important thing to scale DeFi. I mean, you wouldn't want to use something if it's not easy to use, right? That's like basic human. And if you think about like, for example, I hope there's no one from the Polkadot team here, but if you were using the Polkadot.js wallet in the past, you will know that's one of the
I know that.
hardest wallet to use. And I feel like that could have been the single reason why Polkadot just didn't take off. So, and then if you look on the flip side of that, you had the, again, I hope no one was affected by the Terra Luna incident, but the Terra Station wallet was one of the slickest UI UX, which made me really bullish on the ecosystem, just purely because the apps they had designed had really easy, intuitive UI UX. So I think as we move forward into 2035, we have wallets with like the Pectra upgrade with EIP 7702 creating one-click transactions, like approve and deposit into one click. I think this kind of abstraction layers, making things just intuitive without having to think about anything, just like using a Web2 application. This is super important, and we need to start being more mobile first. I'm still using DeFi on mobile, and I can still confidently say that a lot of the DeFi apps just do not translate well on mobile. And I think that's also one of the reasons why it's one of the barriers to entry for a lot of retail people because they're mostly on mobile as well. So I think we have a long way to go for improving UI UX, but I think we are already halfway there in terms of matching the standard of Web 2. So I look forward to seeing more improvements next year where we can really start onboarding more users and they can have a much easier experience compared to what we had to face back in like 2021.
So just echo what CJ you said. Polkadot.js was the most over-engineered wallet ever in the Web3 history. By helping them early stage, I know that. So I echo that a lot. This is a very classic question. Every time we talk about UX is bad, we blame MetaMask. I'm sorry for my MetaMask friend. I have a lot of good friends still working there. An amazing OG, right? Without MetaMask, we wouldn't go this far. So I think we still need to give credit to MetaMask while criticizing them every time. When we will criticize them so much during the NFT season, 2021, and MetaMask was so bad, NFT was so difficult to trade. But I gotta say, Web3 wallets such as MetaMask or even our partner like OKX wallet, Binance wallet, they have been improved so much in the last 3 years. We have to recognize the improvement, right? While we still criticizing, it's not good enough. Still working on it, right? And chain abstraction is here. Account abstractions here. There's a lot of new tooling. You don't need to actually remember the C phrase. There's a lot of like social accounts. You can manage that as well. And it's multi-chain. So you mentioned another good point. Most of the DeFi protocols, or a lot of the even MetaMask team, originally, and still, they based in like Western countries, like Europe, United States, and so on. A lot of the user behavior from those countries are still very laptop driven, right? I think that's part of one reason why all these Web3 wallets are still, even DeFi protocol, are very laptop friendly, but not mobile friendly.
I'm going to have to rush you a little bit on this one.
What?
I'm going to have to rush you on this one.
Okay, we'll finish the point. A lot of users in DeFi are in Asia, and Asia is very mobile driven, right? So I think a lot of good wallet providers, especially in Asia, going to lead the trend. I'm going to shout out to my partners like OKX and the Binance Wallet. They are really doing a very good job, and we have great experience working with them. And I think they're solving the problems.
Yeah, I mean, almost everything has been said already, so not much to add. But I think the key point is to remember, so the people that were trading in DeFi back in 2021 and the ones that are doing so today, they're not the ones that are going to change the game for mass adoption. So that's why the UX is super important, because we're trying to bring in players like from eToro or from Robinhood, from other places, and we need the seamless UX, like the abstraction layer and all of that to do so, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely UX UI is very important, and that's why, for example, we built our perp DEX within Telegram just because you can just easily, you don't need to download anything, right? You can just open up Telegram, open up mini app, and start trading, right? So definitely the easier onboarding we have in DeFi space, the more users we will get, and this is what we definitely as an industry should try to achieve.
Wonderful. So in summary, maybe we can all give a one-liner. Try and do it in one breath as your challenge. So summarize, can DeFi scale without reinventing itself?
So I think this is very underrated, but I think decentralization is it's underrated. It's not talked about enough, and I think hopefully we never have to care about decentralization, but if we do, I'm glad that there's still going to be decentralized apps and decentralized chains like Monad around.
So one-liner. Bitlayer wants to bring DeFi yield to the Bitcoiners, which haven't been solved yet, so we're working on it.
I'd say the simplicity of a centralized exchange intertwined with the transparency of the blockchain is what will drive DeFi mass adoption.
So I think that very soon, like we will be able to give, DeFi experience to Web2 users, and Web2 users they wouldn't even understand that they're using some DeFi like protocols. So that's why I'm very bullish on, like DeFi neobanks on stablecoins.
Perfect. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming.
You.